Did you know that rituals have a very powerful impact, positive impact on our mental health and well-being? Amazing, isn't it? Rituals. Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Nelson, and I'm recording this video right in the middle of this global coronavirus pandemic. I'm in day 25 now of our quarantine, and I can feel the rise of all the anxiety and stress that's been piling up since the beginning of this quarantine season. Everything has changed. So here's why I want to talk about rituals today. They have this positive impact on our mental health and well-being because they are mechanisms, powerful human mechanisms to help us manage big emotions like anxiety and stress. And so if there's ever a time when we ought to be talking about and engaging in rituals, it's now during this season of high stress for all of us. So how does that work? Well, here's the power of it. Most important right now, we're all facing these emotions that come like grief from the losses that we've experienced. The loss of control over our lives. Think of all the losses that you've experienced just from the beginning of this quarantine. We lose our freedom to go out and do anything we want, to go out and be with people that we want to. That's a huge loss. Many people have actually lost loved ones to death. Major loss. Talk about the grief that just overwhelms us with those kinds of losses. Perhaps our relationships have lost a little bit of the sparkle because we can't be with the people that we want to be with all the time. And virtual is okay, but it's just not the same, right? The loss that comes from the loss of human touch. I just read an article this morning that says that Dr. Fauci, who's the head of this whole coronavirus task force, has made the statement that it's possible that the whole sort of cultural greeting that we have of shaking hands might have come to an end. We might never be able to do that again just because of the dangers of transmitting germs and diseases from one person to the next. Imagine that loss, this loss of physical touch. So we can just pile up all the losses that have come from this pandemic alone for many of us. And what it produces is this sense of lack of control over our lives. We didn't ask for this to happen, and there's nothing that we can do to control it. That loss of control stimulates huge amounts of anxiety and stress. So we're all in the middle of it. Let me tell you, I'm feeling it as each day of quarantine goes by. I was just telling my wife today, I'm feeling more and more claustrophobic. I'm feeling more and more less productive. And so the list gets piled on, doesn't it? So the power of ritual is that it is this human mechanism we have at our disposal to engage in behaviors and activities that help restore this sense of control. When we form a ritual and engage in that in regular ways, we are able to step into a process of managing our loss. We're doing something meaningful to ourselves about that loss. So let's talk about it. Here's what experts are saying, people that study the whole process of developing a ritual and performing the ritual. They say, here's what matters most about rituals. Number one, whatever behavior that you have decided to engage in, number one, you name it as a ritual. And number two, you actually perform it and not just think about it. You have to step into it and engage it. There's something very powerful about your whole body, mind, and spirit stepping into a behavior, an activity that we label as a ritual, something that we want to repeat over and over again. I've read interesting stories about performers, for example, who before they go out on the stage to perform, they have certain rituals that engage in. They will walk around in a circle 3 times, for example, repeating mantras. Well, here's what's interesting about that. They know that just walking in circle for 3 times and saying mantras isn't the reason they're going to perform better, but what it's doing is that regularized behavior now is calming their spirits. It's centering them. It's grounding them. Basketball players, you've probably noticed, when they step to the free throw line, have certain rituals that they engage in. They all do it differently, but you notice that if you follow one player and watch every time they step up to the line to do a free throw, they're engaging in the same kind of behavior. They will bounce it maybe 3 times, hold it, spin the ball, bounce it another 3 times, and then go up for the shot. Same behavior, same ritual every time. Why do they do that? Well, they've learned that it focuses them, it calms them, and by repeating it every single time in the same way, they're getting used to the visualization, the behavior, and then the result. That's the power of rituals. It helps us to reclaim this sense of control over sometimes the things that we cannot control. Rituals. Right now, in this era of our pandemic, people are developing new rituals all the time. For example, our technology is assisting us in developing new kinds of social or relational rituals. Now we have people coming together on Zoom, for example, in order to have a virtual happy hour. We just had one this week and another one last week with friends. We came together at a predetermined time. We appeared on Zoom with each other, and though we couldn't be together physically like we have normally been together, we were able to just toast each other and talk and have conversation. We laughed, we shed tears, and at the end of that hour and a half, we said goodbye. Let's do it next time again. Now suddenly this ritual that will be repeated, and it becomes a very meaningful social ritual, right? It continues to bond us to each other in meaningful ways. That's the power of a relational ritual. There's technology that helps us with apps on our phone, for example. One ritual that's extremely powerful, highly simple, is the gratitude ritual. My wife and I do this regularly. We open the app on our phones and we say, I am grateful for, and we just do the list. We type the list in. Then when we're done typing the list in quiet, individually, then we look at each other and say, okay, you go first. How many did you put? I said, I have 10. She says, okay, I have 11. I'll go first. All right. And she says, I am grateful for, and lists it. Then it comes to me. I am grateful for. We repeat these back to each other. And in about a 10-minute process, it can even be as short as 5 minutes, we have entered into one of the most powerful rituals there is, and that's the ritual of gratitude. We are releasing all these endorphins into our systems and the dopamine and these positive chemicals that are helping remind us that in spite of whatever crisis we're in or whatever anxiety we have some positives in our lives that we want to reinforce. That's a powerful ritual. I do yoga every day, and I love that ritual of stretching my body and just being more physical, especially in a quarantine time when we can't go outside to do everything that we used to do. So I do the yoga. And at the end of the yoga practice, I always kneel. I'm kneeling on my mat. I put my forehead down and I do my meditation. And part of my meditation involves saying all these mantras that I've developed that are personal, true statements about who I am and how I'm designed as a human being. And I'm reinforcing my sense of self by that ritual. I can tell you this has been a game changer for me to keep me strengthened, centered, and grounded. It's something that I can do, I can control in the midst of a time period where there's so much we can't control. So we could go on and on. You can begin to think through what are some of the rituals that I already have and what are some of the rituals that I would like to develop. If you're a religious person, you've gone to church perhaps regularly or however often you would go, that going to church service is a ritual. It's infused with meaning for you. And so you're with other people and you enjoy the music, you enjoy the sermon, and that community experience is a powerful ritual that you repeat as often as you're able to go. Well, now we're in this pandemic where people are isolated from each other, and then churches are saying, you know what, let's go online. Let's have virtual services where we can all be wherever we each are residing, and we can watch on screen. We can still engage in the ritual, but it's in a different way. It's virtual, and yet still that ritual has meaning. For others of us who are not religious, there are certain routines and other behaviors and activities that we can engage in. So here are a couple things to keep in mind with rituals. I've mentioned two already. Number one, you have to name this behavior as a ritual, and number two, you actually have to do it. Number three, the more you regularize it on a temporal, chronological level, the more your system gets used to stepping into it. You can actually anticipate it. You can look forward to it. Maybe it's a ritual that you have when you wake up in the morning, or a ritual that you have every evening before you go to bed. Whatever it is, you regularize it so that your system then again begins to get used to this routine, and the behavior itself then gives you that sense of control and the calm that enters into your experience, the lessening of anxiety, the lessening of stress. All of these are the benefits for our mental health and our well-being. So I don't know how many rituals you have, but I can guarantee you that we're in an era right now where the more rituals that are meaningful to us that we establish, the more we are able to develop this place of well-being and manage our anxiety and stress. I remember reading about some of the Jews during the Holocaust who, as they reflected back on the experience, made a very profound thing. Obviously for Jews, and actually I'm not a Jew, but I grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist with a weekly Sabbath practice. And the Jews, when they entered into their Sabbath, their Friday night, they would light the candles, they would sing some songs in the barracks there in Auschwitz and other camps. Right in the middle of the Holocaust, that 24-hour period they called Sabbath was a very grounding and centering over their own lives that they felt they had completely lost control of. They had this place of control, the reclaiming their sense of identity. And here's the statement that one of the theologians said, reflecting back on that. They said, "The Jews did not keep the Sabbath kept the Jews." That ritual kept them whole, kept them centered and grounded in the midst of awful, awful crisis. That place of calm and peace that centered and grounded them. That's the power of a ritual. It can be as deep as you want it. It can be as simple and surface as you want it. But the power of a ritual is when you choose to name it, step into it, regularize it, and do it faithfully. It will give you the benefits of a greater well-being than without it. So I challenge myself today, name it, develop it, and do it. Rituals. I'd be excited to hear what ideas you come up with and what's working for you. Feel free to leave a comment below. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.